welcome again. We're super excited. We have guests on the podcast today, and I'm always excited because then you don't have to listen to me or Charlotte as much, and you get to hang out with other cool people. So, Roxanne and Alix, welcome to our fabulous and fun podcast. Um, I'll do a little intro of why you're here, and then I'm gonna like cut loose and let you chat about it. But met Roxanne, I think a couple of years ago now, doing
Yeah.
some family peer supporter training, and just watched Roxanne's head explode sometimes and go, oh. And Roxanne has always truthfully said pretty cool things about Alix, her daughter. And so I went, oh, Alix feels like me, feels like a Canadian me. So we asked them if they'd come along and join us. Charlotte, before we, ask them a little more, do you want to say anything to get us rolling?
Well, I'm really excited about this podcast because I was thinking there's Roxanne and I, two family peer supporters, two moms, and we got you and a mini version of you. So it's two teams. See where this conversation goes today. I'm quite excited.
I love that. Two teams. We've got the team of, are you good if I call us a little bit crazy, Alix?
Absolutely. I was just going to say
Okay.
crazy off my rocker. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. We've got the crazies and the people who deal with us crazy. So
Yeah,
I
perfect.
know we're being politically incorrect, but we can call ourselves that. The rest of you just can't
Yeah.
call us. So, Roxanne, I might let you just say anything you want to say about yourself to our listeners first, and then, we'll bookend it with Alix. You get the cool cats at the front end of the intros.
Perfect.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited to be here too because I always learn so much from talking with Robyn and Charlotte. You're right, Robyn. My first time coming to peer support, family peer support, and listening to both of you, my head was turning. And I did share a lot of why my head turned with Alix, which she just laughed at me the whole way through. So it gives you a little bit about where we're at and Alix and I have been side by side through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, and here we are today.
Awesome. Well, thanks. And Alix, do you want to say anything before I might throw us a question and get us rolling?
Yeah. I guess just kind of the way this came about is like usually, I think like once a week, my mom and I'll have a little coffee, watch some shows, and we usually end up talking just about what we're learning with mental health because it's my life and impacts everything. I'm constantly doing self studies, learning about new research, and she's going to conferences, chatting with you guys. So as we were talking, we were like, our conversations like could be insightful to people to kind of hear from the outside in.
Love it. Love it. So, given you said that, some of your conversations might be insightful for people. What are some of the things that you think, and either of you can answer this one, what do you think some of the like insightful things might be that you'd love to share with the listeners about the growth?
I think for myself, something that I've noticed that's really important is I always, especially with the OCD and the ruminating thoughts that I have often, I always find if I can say those things out loud, as my mom being my safe person, once I say them out loud, I often realize how ridiculous I sound. And it makes me chuckle and takes me out of that constant thought loops. And it was just last week, and she was over, and I had said to her, I have been terrified for the last week and a half that you and dad and my fiance Jordan are all going to die in a terrible fiery accident at the exact same time, and it will be my fault. And once I said it out loud, I was like, well, the statistical likelihood on that is pretty low. And she kind of chuckled at me. And usually once she gives me that kind of laugh, it's a go ahead that like, this is your head. This isn't your rational thinking.
Well, look, I love that ability to say it without someone judging you, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big things for us. Hey, sometimes there's shit in our head and it's like, it's got to come out, but
Yeah.
it's so much easier to be able to have that conversation when
Yeah.
we've got those people who are going, well, we'll have to take you off to hospital now. We'll have to put you on more medication, or we'll have to. So, Roxanne, what is it that has you to be able to sit and go, oh, yeah, let's have a conversation about this without, like, I don't know what Charlotte calls it, but that piece of, oh my God, we've got to fix of and
Fix
save.
it. Yeah.
No, I have to say, family peer support for me, I always say it was like somebody threw me a life vest because it really kind of taught me how to hold space. It really taught me about what Alix may be going through. Listening to other parents who were in a different place than me, who had gone through what I went through, and to understand what they were hearing and how sometimes just holding space for somebody is all they need. And so that's what I said for I don't know what I would have done without family peer support, honestly.
We better hear from Charlotte now because
Well,
that's her thing.
I love, what you were saying, Roxanne, and I'm hoping that others who are listening to this podcast might take a try with family peer support if they're on that caregiver side. It was a lifeline for me as well. And I know I've talked about this with you often, Robyn, and I've talked on the podcast about it. It was just normalizing a world that wasn't normal to a lot of people, and finding our people. So when you were talking, Roxanne, of people sharing what it was like when they went through something similar, and then you get to choose whether you're going to try that, do something different. But I have to say, when I stopped trying to fix, solve, and save my daughter and hold space for her, and that message that you've got this, and what can I do to support you? That's when things started to change in our relationship. And not to say I controlled all of it, because I only controlled my part in it. She chose to do the work, and I think, Alix, that's what you're doing too, figuring out what works for you.
Yeah.
And adjusting it when you find something different. And us as moms, we just have to hold on to ourselves and support you through that journey. And we get to have, Roxanne and I get to have conversations of all of the emotions that we're feeling as you're going through your bit, because our stuff is separate. I always like to say it here. Yeah.
I find as well, something that, sorry, I just kind of lost my train of thought there. Circle back.
Okay, I'll circle back. One of the things that popped up in my head when I was thinking about that non-judgmental conversation, when we were having a quick chat last week, one of the things that we talked a little about was coping strategies.
Mhm.
That sometimes we use coping strategies that get us through something, but families, friends are like, what are you doing?
Doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah, and so I know that you were talking a little about, for a while you thought you had to fix yourself for others,
Yeah.
and used like the coping strategies that other people thought might be the ways to go. So I'd love you to share anything about that, because I thought that was pretty cool conversation that I think lots of us go through.
Well, and I think additionally too, and this is kind of that thought that I had just a second ago, with it also gives me a way, because it's very hard for us to advocate for ourselves, especially sometimes when you struggle to even, figure out the words, or sometimes you can't even describe, and to advocate for yourself is really hard. But being able to, if I want to use a coping mechanism, or if I want to change my plan or change my therapy or change my medications, I know that I can speak to my mom. She will support whatever I decide, and then can advocate for me further in the situations where I feel like I can't advocate for myself.
I just want to jump in on that meds one because we had a conversation about that one.
Yeah.
And, I'm clear. I don't use medication. I haven't used it in 16 years. I have what the world would consider a serious mental illness, like having a diagnosis of bipolar. Well, that's one of them. That's the cool one for me.
Yeah.
And like I know people are often like medication, you have to have medication, that's where it is. But I know that's one of the things that we chatted a little bit about last week, that being able to have those conversations about yes or no made a difference for you, yeah?
Hugely. I feel like probably there would be a lot of people, if they don't have that, would just go along with what they're being told they're supposed to do versus feeling like they have autonomy and can explore an array of different options.
Yeah, it's that place about I'm not anti or pro medication or any kind of treatment or like whatever, but I am pro informed choice, that people
Absolutely.
get
Yeah.
to hear that. So, Roxanne and Charlotte, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that coping strategy stuff that we sometimes use. The others are like, what are you doing?
I just want to speak about a little bit about the medication part, because this was something when Alix made a choice not to, use all the meds that she was using. And I remember she didn't tell me until 6 months after. And she had things in place that she, if something happens, notify my mom. But she said, and of course, when she told me, I was taken back. And she said, "Do you want to tell what you told me, Alix?"
Yeah, well, I told myself if after 6 months things were going okay at this point, I'd let my mom know, inform her that I was no longer on medication. And I knew that throughout this process, if I had told her at the time anyway, she would have constantly been looking for, if I had, just a good day and I was just happy, she would have put, "Are you manic? Are you manic? Are you sure this is a good idea? Like, are you sure?" And I'm like, "I'm just feeling things for the first time in a really long time. Like, I'm not a zombie right now. So let me feel." Same with like bad days. I assumed she would, depression's here. And I needed to learn how to ride that roller coaster a little bit on my own and figure out new tools.
And that's
By the time
exactly,
I
she was
told her,
right.
she kind of went, "Oh, but okay, well, you're doing really well. So this seems to be like a decision that's working for now. So let's keep it up."
She was right. I would have done that. Yeah. Trying to protect her, trying to make sure everything was all together, because
Make sure I didn't
the
fall
fear
apart.
of, yeah.
I've talked about that piece so often that once we have this label, everything about our life becomes
Yeah.
about the label. You're happy? Oh, you must be manic. Oh my God.
I'm
Versus,
interested in a topic I'd like to talk about. Got to be manic. I can't be enthusiastic about anything because it's got to be mania.
we know we're both manic here because we're excitable on this podcast. So we must be heading on that. Sorry, world. I'm just being a little funny. Charlotte,
Excited
I can
to
see you
human
want to
emotion.
say something.
For the longest time, I was constantly looking for the mental illness, and I am using the word illness in everything my daughter did. Explains things. It was looking for things, and one of the things I had to work on was not fearing for that worst day that happened 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, because that was where that intention of looking for what was happening with my child. And it's, when you were talking, Alix, I was thinking, I don't see, Sarah and her illness anymore together. I just see Sarah, and that took a lot of work on my part to stop seeing her with the illness. And again, I'm using the mental illness tag because that was what I was like, 17 years ago on this start of this journey. And I did such a disservice to her when that's all I was looking for. And it takes a lot it took a lot for me to change my thinking, and I'm so glad that I've done that, because like I said, it was not something that Sarah wanted from me or expected from me or asked me to do. It was something that I had created. And I love it when other families see that and get that and stop that.
Just if I, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead,
Roxanne.
I was
Roxanne.
just going to share something because that's so true, Charlotte. And one of the things I remember, and I spoke honestly to Alix, and I said, I'm doing this because I'm so fearful that you're going to, you know, fall again. And she looked at me, and I don't know if she remembers this, but she looked at me and she said, oh, I'm going to fall again. That's all part of what I'm going through. But to know where I am today means I won't fall to the bottom of the barrel, maybe halfway, and then I'll bring myself up again. And it really made me start to look at that a little bit differently with that open conversation.
No, and I was thinking I should have my Bumpy is Good shirt on, Robyn, right now, because we talk about that in family peer support, that I would take the bumpy days over the alternative. And that's, you know, her not being here anymore. And it's how I can show up so that when it's a good day, I'm not thinking, oh, are you manic? I'm just saying this is a great day. And then when it's a lower day, you know, I'm supporting her through it, but I'm also supporting me that I don't go back to that worst case scenario of fear. And it's always with the best of intentions. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's some trauma we've got from it, Roxanne, I don't know, but it's not like we're doing it out of other than kindness and love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think when you said that piece about trauma, right? Like people think trauma in like, and I don't want to say bigger as in, oh, that's more important than that. But I think often people think trauma is, oh, someone was abused, or it was this, or it was that, or it was an event, and when I hear families talk, I want to be super clear. It can be hugely traumatic hanging with us. And we mightn't even notice that our family and our friends are having that stuff occur to them and the impact that it has. And I think there's not enough acknowledgement in the sector as a whole about the impact that, not all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to be super clear, but we have impact on the people around us. And, you know, I don't think the mental health system acknowledges that there's that piece that occurs for families in ways that can be supportive as it could be. And yes, I think we who deal with our own mental health stuff sometimes recognize that, but sometimes we don't, and we forget, and we go, oh my God, you're just on our case again. Why are you on our case again? Why don't you just let us be? And I you know, I can see you, Alix, going, yeah. Like, but it is that case, right? Sometimes we get so frustrated because you're trying to fix, solve, and save, and you're in that space because it's a response to what's occurred. And
It is
I
a
think,
trigger response.
yeah, I think normalizing that and then being able to support families to take a look at their own health and wellness as they like support us to be able to do our thing.
Yeah. And I think additionally, like one of my favorite books I always come back to is The Body Keeps Score. And in the way of discussing trauma, it's the body doesn't recognize what is it. The body just responds. It doesn't know if it's a big or a small. The body just reacts. And that's humans.
I've tried to take that stuff about big T, little t out because like it's not about the thing, it's about how it impacts us and how
I
we
could spill
feel
milk.
about it.
that could make me cry and I could be spiraled for years because, or not years, but like I could have a very deep, maybe it could be years, I don't know, but something very minor, like, you know, just that would be the thing that set me off into something.
Yeah.
Or minor to outside folks, I guess.
Hey, Charlotte, I can see you want to chat.
Oh, well, first off, that's the beauty of family peer support, is that we get to have those conversations. I never wanted, my daughter to know that she caused me that much discomfort. Those are conversations I share with other families, and it wasn't all the time. So I always want to be clear that it's not that you all are creating it. It's something that's happening inside of me, and I had to work on that. So I don't want to add any more guilt and shame to you two and my daughter. But the other thing, when you're talking about that little T, big T, I know we've talked this story a couple of times, but the bullying story, Robyn, I always think of what happened in that case. And so you always tell it better than I do, because I was living it at the moment.
Oh, so Charlotte was on, like Charlotte and I used to be on this thing that was kind of the Winnipeg, Canada's equivalent of The View. And I was lucky enough to be part of that. Not sure why, but so Charlotte was on there one day. I wasn't. I was listening, and this woman shared a story about being bullied, and like it was a secondhand story, but it was still, she was talking about this person she'd met, was talking about being bullied in the workplace and was describing it. And this other woman goes, excuse me, I just have to say, I looked up the definition of bullying, and that's not it. The bullying definition is blah, 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 blah. And Charlotte was the coolest cat, because she went, look, excuse me, I just want to say, I get there's definitions of words, but if someone feels it's bullying, right? It doesn't matter what the definition is. And like when this woman was going on about the definition, the woman who'd first described the bullying was shrinking and being quiet, and you could physically see a difference. And it was like someone was just putting their interpretation on it. And so when we talk about trauma is whatever it is to the person. And I love that, spilt milk kind of thing. It can be huge. And nobody else has a right to say, oh, but that's nothing, but this is big. So, and I think when I think about families supporting us and our friends, when I say family, I mean whoever family is to us. Like it might be blood relatives, it might be buddies, but when I think about that, I just want to be seen, heard, and validated for my experience. Absolutely. And not have someone try and fix it, solve it, sort me out. Because part of the way that I grow too is actually having some of those falls, right? That's how we all learn. And sometimes I think people try and cotton wool us so that we don't have a negative experience, but
bubble wrap.
It takes, one of my mates in Colorado talks about that takes the discovery process away from us.
And kind of just like what my mom had said a little bit ago with, each time I fall, it's not as far. I don't have to climb as far, because when I fall, I learn new tools. I learn better coping tactics. And so when it happens again, it's not as bad. I don't know to say bad or good, but it's not as challenging, I suppose.
Yeah.
As the one before, or the ones 10 years ago.
One of the things too that Robyn, you and I talked about was, I said as parents, when we're our children are growing, right? And they're dealing with a lot. We are trying to give them all the tools to be independent adults, right? To be able to go out in the world and live on their own. And we panic. We kind of get on this rat wheel, like, oh, what if they don't finish school? What if they, and I remember something important you said to me, and you said, but aren't we all dependent on each other? Like that's humanity. That's kind of being human. And it really made me look at things a little bit differently as I lead and facilitate some of my peer support groups, because you see that a lot, right? Like they're panicking when their children are struggling, about what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next, and how are they going to be independent? What's going to happen if they can't get a job?
It is that piece, right? I think one of the things I love about the Australian peer support values is they talk about connectedness and interdependence. And for me, none of us are completely independent of anyone else. Tell me one person in the world that never interacts ever, ever, ever with anyone else for anything. We don't. We are connected humans. Hey, we do have that like flow of how we connect. So it is one of those things. And I'm glad that something I said resonated for you and was like, oh, I told my mum when I was little, I wanted to make a difference in one person's life. And my mum's super cool and says, you've made a difference in thousands. Like, and so it's that one starfish at a time, right? And that what's the ripple effect? We don't know. I don't know that chatting with you, Roxanne, meant that it changed things with how you connected with Alix. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. Yes.
And a
Our
lot of that
conversations.
too. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
A lot of that stuff now too, because like Jordan and I have only been together for 5 years at this point. So, he came in, I'm in the middle of being diagnosed, working through this. So a lot of what my mom has been able to learn, she's been able to impart to him to, learn these things, how to help me notice my triggers, keep an eye on things. And that's been really helpful too.
Awesome. Like, how cool, how, like, what an amazing place to be able to support people to look at life and go, it can be amazing, it can be different, things can look a little bit. That's such an honor and a privilege in my life to be able to have personal conversations with people. Hey, Alix, one of the things I wanted to make sure we chatted about was we were chatting the other day about you're on some online like peer support.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were having a bit of a conversation. So sometimes I think peer support is maybe controlled a little by other people. So do
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
want to share a little about some of your experiences?
Yeah, so they're just very broad, online sort of groups, forums, I guess, message boards. And there are a few of them, and again, kind of depends on who's running it, who's the moderator, I guess. Some of them are a little more flexible, but there are some where if you mention at all that you don't take medication, you'll be kicked out, you'll be shamed, you'll be accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, and that you could be the fault for like someone's downfall. They get very aggressive on some of them sometimes, and you really have to seek out the ones where it really is just folks supporting each other and not trying to control, like you said, how other people handle their mental illnesses.
I think that's one of the things why I keep talking about authentic value-based peer support, because that is about self-determination. And peer support is not trying to tell someone to do things that have worked for you. It's if you're having a conversation and someone asks you about it, that you can be authentic. You can
Absolutely.
be truthful. And I go, look, I don't take meds, but it saves some of my friends' lives. So like work out what works for you. Don't look at what I've done and go, oh, that'll work for me, because it might be full of shit. It mightn't work for you.
Yeah.
And so when I think about those groups or peer support, like, please find places that allow you to talk, because there's also ones that are like, well, if you say the S word, suicide or self-harm, people are like, whoa, hang on, off you're
Yeah.
gone. And I truly want a space. I want peer support to grow and gain knowledge, and people to be able to have conversations with people without gatekeeping. And I get in groups sometimes, we don't know who's where and what's happening, but I think that's the beauty of having some training, to be able to be in those conversations and manage groups and check it out. And maybe it is, hey, look, there's some people in this group that don't feel comfortable, but maybe there's some other places that there are spaces.
Offer alternatives.
Yeah.
I think it very much does people a disservice to ask them to censor their own experiences.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you said at the beginning, information. I'm not anti, I'm not pro. People should have all the information they can to make an informed decision about their care.
Yeah. Roxanne, Charlotte, we've been blabbering over here. You wanna say some stuff?
Well, in regards to what you two were just talking about, I think on the family side, if we can support families to ask the question to the person that they're supporting in their family, is this what you want? Yeah, because I know for me, for the longest time, it was, you need to take your medication, you need to. And I never asked once what she wanted. And this was her as even, an older teenager, they get a right to self-determination and at least a conversation with us. And I was like, this is what you need to do, never listening. I had to learn how to hold space for that conversation as to the choices that she wanted to make. And I think that if I had forced it on her for all those years, it would have been a different outcome, Robyn. I know it would be. We work with enough people where they only know one option and that option doesn't work for them and they lose all hope. And when they learn of other options, you should see like the light goes off in them and they're like, what?
That's a choice? I have options?
It's like we had this little video with this guy, John, and maybe we grab him for a podcast at some point. But he talked about when he found out about peer support and he heard that abstinence didn't have to be the way from alcohol, that there was such a conversation as harm reduction. He said it was like all of a sudden his whole world changed, because he kept feeling like this failure. Oh, I try abstinence, I go to treatment, I come out, it doesn't work. I'm such a loser. I can't do this, the shame, the guilt, the blame. And he went to a peer support training and they were talking about, yeah, abstinence is one way, harm reduction's one way, like in terms of his alcohol stuff. And he went, oh my God, I could just limit it differently. And I know that's not everyone's thing, but do we actually have those conversations so that people can work out what is their thing, what is it working for them, versus continually being told this is the only way?
And I think
It's hard
the
to make
best,
progress when you feel like you're just being roadblocked anytime you want to do something with your own autonomy.
I think when we started this journey, and Alix and I have had this conversation, when we started this journey, the meds were there to stabilize so that once they stabilized, right, and she could come out. But what she taught me about those meds and what they did to her, again, was an eye opener for me, because I had no idea, right? As family, it's just take the meds because that's what you're supposed to do to stay, and I had no idea of how they affected her until we had that open and honest conversation about what happens.
So I always like to add a plug for pharmacists at this point. Make a relationship with a pharmacist. I can't tell you, that's what their job is, to tell you all the pros and all the cons of what that medication is going to look like. And you get to make an informed choice of that part. And you know, moms and dads, you can go separate, have that conversation with the pharmacist, make some time so that you can better support your person, your child or whoever that's struggling, so that they can make that choice for themselves.
I just want to reiterate though, don't think we're saying get off your meds like they're awful. I want to be super clear, right? Medication wasn't great for me, but that said, if I thought I needed some in the future, I'm not anti looking at that. Medication has saved some of my friends' life and given them a life back. I was actually chatting with a friend yesterday who spends lots of time feeling suicidal and really anxious, and was sharing about it took them 45 minutes to leave the house because they would go to the garage, open the garage, get anxious, close the garage, open it, close it, get in the car, open the garage, have to sit there. And went through this whole thing. And they said recently their psychiatrist offered them a small amount of a particular medication. And I don't need to say what one because different ones work for different people. And my friend said it had completely changed her life. And she was able to get out of the house. She said she was starting to look at people again. Because I was like, oh, that person has a cool smile yesterday. And my friend goes, I noticed. And I never noticed when, before. And so I want to say, it's about exploring all of the options and finding out what works. So I'm not anti-clinical world. I'm not anti-medication. I'm not anti-treatment options. I'm pro-informed choice. That autonomy you were talking about, Alix.
Yeah.
And medication conversations aren't always just for the people we support. I support a lot of families who are looking at taking something because they just can't. They don't have the tools to support themselves. And so I've had, lots of conversations where parents are saying to me, do you think I should be on something? And we explore that. And several of them have made that choice to take something that just helps ground them so that they're not so anxious, so they can be a better version of themselves, so they can support their family member. So it's not always, it's on both sides, Robyn, the medication conversation.
Yeah, and that exploration, want to be super clear, none of us in peer support talk about what medication or this. It's about asking questions and saying doctors, pharmacists are the ones to chat to about this, but we're happy just to explore your thoughts, feelings, you just kind of thinking about it for you. So not being that, oh, let me tell you about the medication or what it does or how it works or blah, 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 blah. Because I don't know how it works for other people. I know how mine worked for me and I didn't like it.
Yeah. And additionally, too, we're humans, our hormones change throughout our lives. So what's working now may not be working 6 months from now or 5 years from now. That having the ability to know you can change things up.
So I have a question for you both. Tell us a little bit about what you were like before peer support, Roxanne, and what was your relationship like with Alix, and then after? Putting you on the spot.
Oh dear. Before peer support, I was a fix, save, and solver. That was what I needed to do. I always say I was on the rat wheel. I was always looking ahead. What if she doesn't finish school? What if she doesn't get a job? What if she can't be on our own. What if? And I need to do this and I need to do that. And it created a lot of chaos in our home. There was a lot of fight back. There was a lot of
Just about to say, I fought. Like I was a fighter. I was constantly trying to pick battles. I was poking the bear. I wanted a reaction. I was angry a lot of the time. And yeah.
and she told me, she said, the minute you reacted to my conversation or my heightened, it was like putting a log on the fire. You
I
were
was like,
doing
okay, let's go.
exactly,
She's ready. Let's take her down.
exactly what so after going to
Gloves
peer
are off.
support, huge, because peer support taught me a lot. Family peer support taught me a lot about how to respond and not react. They gave me the tools that I needed to learn how to communicate with Alix. And I always say communication was one of the greatest tools I ever learned. And it gave me an opportunity to step back, take that breath, and just normally it was, I'm sorry you're going through this. If there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Alix knows the I'm sorry when we get it sometimes today too.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other big thing too, we went from just constantly talking at each other or like yelling at each other. We weren't taking in what each other was saying. Now we have conversations with each other. It's a combination effort as opposed to one-way streets just butting heads.
Wow.
Huge.
I love it. And Alix, it's so good that you're in a relationship and you're getting married and you have a job and you have life.
Yeah.
Well done, you. Well done.
I always say to myself, I'm like, man, 18-year-old me would be proud.
But that's it, right? Like
Mhm.
when we
I always
start,
want the younger versions of me to be proud of how far I'm going.
yeah. But when we start to get that autonomy for us and feel seen, heard, and validated and be able to explore it, there's magic in that. Charlotte, I'm going to be quiet for the rest of this podcast now and let you work out how long we go and when we finish. Ready?
Yeah, I'm making bets with all of you, see if that works. No, I'm just teasing you, Robyn. Final thoughts from the two of you. What would you like people listening to know or hear? Putting it back to you two.
Go ahead, Alix. You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
For me, it's how important it is to connect with family peer support. Like I said, it was my lifeline. It taught me so many tools to be able to support and hold space for Alix when she needed it. And self-care was one of the things that was really high priority on the list of, if you're looking after somebody, you need to look after yourself first and make that a priority to be able to be the person that they need for you.
Thanks, Roxanne. All right, Alix.
I think for me, from my angle, it's learning to understand that, humans are not designed to do things independently and to be at the very least open to the idea of trusting people who are putting in work to be there for you and have your best interest at heart.
I love that. I'm so proud of both of you. I know I've known you for a few years now, Roxanne, and I've known of you for a few years, Alix. Our worlds are small. It's always
Yep.
amazing how close living, where we do in Canada, how connected we all are. And I really appreciate you both coming on today and talking so openly and honestly of what that was like for the two of you. And it was really cool because we didn't gang up on each other. It wasn't team this or team that, but it was just that wonderful conversation of the power of peer support, but also the power of communication and connectedness. Robyn,
Absolutely.
get to close us out.
Thank you. Thank you for the conversation. And thanks for continually talking about trust, communication, and autonomy, because I think it's not just about autonomy for us who are dealing with it. I think it's autonomy for our family and friends to choose what's right for them. And I know for some people, it is, I can't be there right this minute. And for others, it's, I'm in the conversation and we're here. So please just take that second to think about, although you love us, it is not about fixing, solving, and saving us. It is supporting us to explore and work that out for ourselves. And look, I just think we're all in this together and we're all humans and we get it right sometimes and we get it wrong sometimes. And that's okay. And it's just an open, honest conversation, but it is a conversation that makes the difference. So thanks, everyone. We will see you next time.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.